What's the first major news story you can remember living through as a child? Probably the first named news story that comes to mind was around the beginning of my eighth grade in the latter half of October 1962. It was the Cuban Missile Crisis. News was in no way as prolific or invasive in the 1950s or 1960s as it is today. I remember being so disappointed when the evening newscasts expanded from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. That was the most boring and the biggest waste of television time ever conceived, especially since it interrupted cartoons and westerns. Through most of elementary school, we seemed to be in a generally heightened state of political fear as communism was attempting to spread through the free world. We often practiced sitting under our school desks with our heads covered in case of a nuclear bomb attack. If we saw a super bright flash of light, we were to duck under our desks. I suppose most school desks were earthquake, tornado, and nuclear war proof. Nonetheless, we were not far removed from World War II and even closer to the Korean War of the early 1950s. I remember walking home from school when siren drills would be exercised and scare the poo out of all the young children as we assumed the bombs could drop at any second during the drills. In the second half of October of 1962, Russia moved a number of nuclear missiles to a base in Cuba, just 90 miles off the most southern shores of Florida. Our nation could not have been more threatened during this time, referred to as the Cold War. President John F. Kennedy told Nikita Khrushchev, premier of the Soviet Union, he must order the removal of the missiles from Cuba and keep all such weapons away from this part of the world, or we would take military action. We were virtually within hours of nuclear World War III for many days. The Hammett family laid in food and water supplies for our family of 6 in the back hall closet. 1 or 2 cardboard boxes of canned food and a couple of jugs of water. In the event of a devastating nuclear attack on Montgomery's 2 strategic air bases, I'm not sure how long our food would have held out. We also boarded up the back 3 bedrooms of the house to provide protection from any bombs and nuclear radiation. This, of course, would have been virtually useless in the event of an attack from Russia by way of Cuba. There were a number of town folks who installed in-ground fallout shelters. These were very serious times and possibly the most dangerous national times of my life. Khrushchev was the first to blink in this high-stakes standoff of the 2 super military powers. The missiles were removed and the risk of war diminished significantly overnight. I suppose there have not been many years of peace in the world for at least the last 100 years. That leaves a nagging sense of discomfort in the back of one's mind continually. Although life has been in the shadow of the threat of war, we have been blessed in this family not to be directly involved in combat since George Sr. was in the U.S. Navy serving in the South Pacific in World War II. Some cousins were involved in the Middle East conflicts and others were in the military. My military draft during the 1970s was Class 1A, which meant if the lottery called my number, I would have to go into military service. Many of the ones called for service during that period served in the Vietnam War, where some 60,000 Americans lost their lives. My local draft board called up to number 169 out of the possible 365 lottery numbers, which were based on random selection of birthdays of the year. My draft number was 171, which meant I missed compulsory military service by only 2 lottery numbers. I was very thankful to have missed that very unpopular political war.